I don't know, man. I know I'm on this earth for a particular purpose, and that purpose was not sitting in an office working for somebody else doing something that, I was good at, but that just wasn't my calling. So I knew that. I recognized that fairly early, and I also knew what the thing I wanted to do was, which was music and stuff that's more creative. So to me, the bigger risk was not making that move and being someone who 10, 15, 20, 30 years down the line is living with regret and thinking, oh man, I wish I explored that opportunity. I had a talent in that. Why did I not explore that? So to me, that was the bigger risk. The risk wasn't going and pursuing the music. The risk was not doing it.
You're currently listening to Zuby. He's a musician, author, podcaster, public speaker, fitness expert, and life coach. Zuby doesn't shy away from expressing himself, and with a refreshing and compelling level of honesty in this episode, I'm excited for you guys to listen. So let's get this thing started. Let's get after it. This is Your Superior Self, episode 87, Perseverance, with musician and author Zuby. This is Perseverance. I've been on the rhyme since I made a first appearance. I've been on the grind, never waited for the clearance. Life is all the time, so I'm gonna live it fearless. Yeah, and people gonna hear this. Made a little name with a vision and coherence. Never been a lame, no, I'm closer to a genius. Knowledge in my brain, chalk it up to the experience. Still, I'm not rich, but at least I ain't broke. Never sell dreams, cause I'd rather sell hope. People so lost in the mirrors and the smoke. Think I'd be a realer bloke if I said I sold dope. But my fans would tell you that I'm awesome. I started selling and they bought them. I told them get them and I got them. So if you want dope bars, that is not problem. It's time to put the needles on the wax. Rock hard like I got the Beatles in the back. Go soft, make an easy living off the map. Or I can go hard like freaking Cheetah on the track. I'm grinding from a zero to a stack, and I'm talking about De Niro getting jacked. If Wakanda needs a new king, I'm gonna go hard to be the leader of the pack. A needle in a stack, and I'm fiending to attack. Not a baller, no T'Challa, but a hero, and I'm black. I'm an eagle to a rat, verbal demon on a track. I'm a scholar and a brawler. You don't feel it, then you're whack. You're always talking evil in your rap. I'm trying to put my means on the map. I gave you 12 rules for life and kept my room clean. I'm the Jordan Peterson of rap. And those lyrics were taken from the song Perseverance by today's guest, Zuby. I want to apologize about my voice. The children have infected me with some type of sickness from school, and it's taken over my entire body. But I will push through this because today's guest, Zuby, and I have an amazing conversation. And during this conversation, like the thing that slapped me in the face, the one thing that I took away from this conversation was I need to show more gratitude. Like I need to take time out of my day and just be thankful for the blessings that I have. Because I have things that people wish that they did, whether it be children, a wife that is amazing, a house, car, a job, like all of these things some people don't have, and I take it for granted because I'm always on a go type of schedule, and I need to take time to step back and be in the moment and be still and realize that there are people in this world that don't have shit, and I'm thankful. I am totally thankful for this conversation. I'm also aware that people don't get to have the types of conversations that I have with people on this show, especially in this episode where the message is so strong. I'm thankful for you guys for listening to this podcast. And if this is your first time listening, please hit subscribe and leave a rating and review so that way I can scale the podcast and get this into the earbuds of those that might need a little bit of motivation in their life. So before my voice is completely lost, without further ado, here is my conversation with Zuby.
What's going on, Superior Nation? Tonight I got a fantastic guest. His name is Zuby, the rapper, podcast host, influencer. Zuby, man, thanks for coming on the show, brother.
That's all good, man. How you doing?
Good. So, I mean, right now, it's pretty crazy, right? So you're a rapper. you're blowing up on Twitter, especially with that tweet about the I think it was the record for the was it deadlift or something like that.
Yeah, I broke the British women's deadlift record back in February.
That's pretty crazy, man. Like the fact that you can stir that much shit up with a tweet, just it just shows how controversial times are.
Oh yeah, man. I've had many more since then. I've had some before and some after, but that one seriously kicked the door in very hard.
So I'm like intrigued by your story. So you're born in England. You go to Saudi Arabia. I think that's where you grew up, right?
That's correct.
How long were you in Saudi?
I lived there kind of full term. I lived there for 19 years. From the age of 11 to about 20, it was back and forth because I was in education in the UK, first in school and then in university. But then I was going back to Saudi normally 2 or 3 times a year. So during term time, I'd be in the UK, and then during all the vacations, holidays, I'd be back in Saudi Arabia. But yeah, overall, I lived there for 19 years from the age of 1 to about the age of 20.
And what was that like? I mean, compared to the U.S.?
Very different, man. Very different on a whole bunch of different levels. Where I grew up was primarily an expat community, so it was certainly a little bit of a bubble, but you get to see both sides. So living in there, which is a little bit more westernized and, very small community. I mean, where I lived, there were only about 1,500 or so people. But then when you venture out into the cities, into the various cities in Saudi Arabia, yeah, it's totally different. It's hard to explain where to start with the differences because there are so many. I mean, fundamentally, the culture, the religion, the laws, everything is founded on sort of a different basis and different principles. So it's hard to, you can certainly compare them, but they're very, very different in a whole bunch of ways. So it depends specifically on which aspect you wanted to look at, I guess.
What did they hold on to that was, still American? Like what type of, like, I don't know, societal beliefs or atmosphere did they like hold on to?
So in terms of the main Saudi Arabia, nothing. Saudi Arabia is not remotely, they're not particularly keen nor open to most Western values. But inside the expat community, because where I lived, there were lots of Americans and British people, people from all over the world. It was not primarily Saudi nationals. So within that small camp or compound, then, everything's a lot more Americanized.
Because that's what I meant, like the expat community,
gotcha.
Not like Saudi Arabia.
I get you. Okay, I get you. Yeah. I mean, it would be like living in a very small town in the U.S. for the most part. Some of the laws and things like that, the national laws still apply for the most part. Things are a tiny bit more liberal in terms of how people can dress and things that can be done in public. I mean, things like alcohol is still totally illegal, there, but it's a little bit more liberal within that compound. Women could drive and all that, but then once you're outside of it, then you're in the real Saudi Arabia.
That's nuts, man. Like, so what? Like, how did you end up there? Like, your parents moved there, or how that happened?
Yeah, my parents moved there. My dad got a good offer to work out there, and the whole family ended up moving. So I don't remember that story. All my earliest memories begin in Saudi because I moved there as a baby. So I don't remember the process of moving at all.
Really? That's crazy. Well, I guess so, yeah. I mean, I don't remember much as a kid either, or a baby anyway, but then you went to college, you went to Oxford, you graduated from there. So you spent, 4 years back at Oxford?
3 years.
3 years?
Yeah.
Wow. Look, is that what university is over there, 3 years? Or are you that, brilliant?
It's normally 3. I mean, it's 4 if you want to do a master's. It depends on the subject, but the typical degree in the UK is 3 years.
And what, compared to the US and, the expat community, who did you feel more connected to? Was it the Saudi, background, or spending, I guess 3 years isn't enough time to really feel connected to a community? I don't know. I mean, I stayed in the US. I don't really know. I don't have a lot of ties outside of that. So it's hard for me to kind of relate.
Yeah, I mean, so I went to boarding school from the age of 11. So I went to boarding school in the UK when I was 11 years old. So I'd already been in the UK. Before I went to university. I'd already done 7 years of school in the UK. So it wasn't like I wasn't familiar with that or anything. But in terms of where I connect to, I feel some connection to a bunch of different places. I'm not someone who's just got a simple life story where it's like, okay, this is my. If someone asks me what my hometown is, or even asks me where I'm from, it's not an easy question to answer because it's like, well, what do you mean? Do you mean my ethnic background? That's Nigerian. Do you mean where I spent the most time as a child? That would be Saudi Arabia. Do you mean where I live now or where I was born, which is the UK? So there's a whole bunch of different influences in there for me. And I feel a connection to all of those different places. I even feel some connection to the US, given that I grew up with Americans and I was
Sure.
taught English by Americans, which is why I don't really sound British. And yeah, I mean,
Yeah, I was going to ask that. I was like, yeah,
Yeah.
you definitely sound American. Like it's crazy.
yeah. So everyone in the UK thinks I'm American anyway, so I may as well just claim it.
Well, all right. So you graduated from Oxford. What was your major?
Computer science.
Computer science. You get out, you get a job, right? For like 2 years, something like that.
Yeah, so I did my music full time for 1 year, but I already had a job offer, an opportunity waiting for me. So after I'd done my music full time for a year, I moved to London. I started working as a management consultant for one of the big companies, and I did that job for 3 years before leaving to pursue my music full time.
And what was it that that gave you, I mean, the courage to give up that job and to go pursue music full time?
It's what I wanted to do, man. I'm not someone who needs to build up a lot of courage for these things. To be honest with you, I'm very good at doing things that I want to do, and I'm not someone who. I don't know, man. I know I'm on this earth for a particular purpose, and that purpose was not sitting in an office working for somebody else doing something that, I was good at, but that just wasn't my calling. So I knew that, I recognized that fairly early. And I also knew what the thing I wanted to do was, which was music and stuff that's more creative. So to me, the bigger risk was not making that move and being someone who 10, 15, 20, 30 years down the line is living with regret and thinking, oh man, I wish I explored that opportunity. I had a talent in that. Why did I not explore that?
Absolutely.
So to me, that was the bigger risk. The risk wasn't going and pursuing the music. The risk was not doing it.
Who was have you always liked rap? Like, has that always been like your music's like choice?
Certainly since my teenage years. I wasn't into music when I was a kid. I didn't like music as a kid. I used to play piano, but weirdly enough, I didn't like music. Like I didn't listen to it or anything. But then when I went to boarding school is when I really fell in love with hip hop and used to just listen to Nas, Dre, Jay-Z, Eminem, all that stuff. Like that whole era was very much what really got me into it. And then I started rapping when I was 18, when I was in university. That's when I first started actually writing my own stuff and rapping.
Nice. Yeah, I love rap, man. I'm a big Biggie, Nas. I like Nas back in the day. I liked I was a big DMX fan too. And then like it was weird because like where I'm from is like southern Delaware, so it's like we're in our own little bubble down there, and it's like we like our rap, but we kind of don't know what's really going on in the world of rap. So it's like everybody liked DMX, and then Ja Rule came out, and everybody liked him until 50 Cent came into the picture, and then now it's just kind of like I like the old stuff, man, like the real old stuff. Biggie, I really like him. Pac's cool, but I can't relate because he's on the West Coast. There's just two different styles.
Yeah.
But yeah, dude, I love rap, and I like your stuff too because what's interesting to me is like I saw a stat the other day, like you don't cuss in your rap.
No, I don't cuss.
Like that's crazy, right? Like I mean, for a rapper to not cuss, it's definitely being different.
Yeah, well, I don't cuss in real life either, so I'm not going to suddenly get on a mic and start cussing because that would be the fakest thing in the world.
So is that like a religious thing, or is that just a personal thing?
It's how I was raised, man.
That's awesome. Man.
No one in my family cusses. It's just not what we do. And Yeah. Like I don't even think about it, to be honest. It's one of those things that other people notice, but I almost don't, just because like I've never done it. Like, it's just not, it's not acceptable in our family. So I was just kind of raised with that value, and yeah, always maintained it.
That's awesome. I wish I had that, right? Like I wish I had that, a little bit more of that. Like, who instilled, like your father, like he instilled that in you, or is that just your mom too?
Both. Both. Yeah.
Just
Man.
the culture.
Yeah. I mean, even in my wider family, like, I mean, I come from my immediate family's big, but even in my wider family, I mean, people don't cuss. Like, it's just not what we do.
What else is different about your music?
The message is different to certainly a lot of the mainstream hip hop, which is out there. I mean, I try to inspire people through my music. So my overall theme is positivity, authenticity, trying to motivate, trying to inspire, encourage people to, you know, go out there, overcome different obstacles, be themselves, speak up, be bold, be true to themselves. I mean, that's what I try to do in everything that I do. So that's the same message that I try to communicate in my songs, sometimes more obviously and in your face, but sometimes more subtly. I've made a lot of songs, so not all of them are, you know, specifically have that kind of obvious theme, but the underlying or overarching current and theme of all my music and everything that I've started doing beyond that really is about the inspiration and the positivity. So no, you know, glorification of violence or drug dealing or disrespecting women, all that kind of stuff that people unfortunately relate to mainstream hip hop. Mm-hmm. That's not my thing, and it's not my life. It's not my background. Again, it would be very fake for me to go on a microphone and start rapping like I grew up in the hood and, you know, I've done this and I was in this gang or whatever. Like, it would just be lying. I'd just be going in the booth and just lying to everybody. And from the beginning, I was like, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to be me. I'm going to be truthful. Some people will like it. Some people won't. But that's okay. It will resonate with the right people.
Mm. Well, let me ask you this. Is there like a avatar that you picture when you're writing your songs? Like when you're rapping?
Is there an avatar I picture?
Yeah, like is there like a target audience that you're trying to target?
Oh, I get you. Not that specifically, just people who are open to what I just said. In terms of demographic, it's not like a visual demographic. It's not necessarily, okay, this is for teenage boys or this is for middle-aged women or whatever. It's like, look, I don't care about people's age, race, gender, the country they live in, anything. Like, it's just anyone who's got that kind of open mind and positive outlook on life, then they'll be open to it, and they are for the most part. I'm not trying to appeal to people who I know are not necessarily my audience. You know, it's people who are generally pretty open-minded, but yeah, who have that kind of positive energy and who don't just want the brainless, mindless, ignorant stuff. I mean, there's plenty of that out there if that's what people want, and it's fine, you know. It's like, I don't know, you know, some people like McDonald's. You know, I don't like McDonald's. I don't eat McDonald's. I don't eat KFC. I don't eat Burger King, but there's millions, billions of people who like that. But if I'm a chef and I'm trying to make a steak, you know, I'm trying to make a steak dinner, then I'm not trying to change my recipe to be more like McDonald's. You know what I mean? It's like, well, not everyone's going to want this steak, but maybe that has that certainly, I mean, using that metaphor, that certainly would have a lower target market in terms of overall size. But it's like, well, I'd rather have that and reach the people who I actually want to reach rather than compromise myself or not be true to myself just to sell more records or get a bit more fame or more followers on social media. Yeah. Whatever the case may be. Because if you're not true to yourself, then, I mean, there's a whole bunch of problems with that beyond just living a lie, but it's tiring. And you might not even like your own audience. I mean, I love my audience. I love my fans. And that's because I know they like me for me. So I'm not pretending to be something to reach people who I don't necessarily like or respect or feel like I have some kind of association to. I just put that out there, and it's like, you know, I've met thousands of my fans I've met in real life, and lo and behold, I like them all, you know, because you know what I mean? Like I like my fans.
Yeah.
that's in the UK, that's in the US, whatever. I mean, that's why people are like, man, that's crazy. You just go on Twitter and you organize meetups on Twitter and you're just like, yo, I'm in this city. Like, who wants to meet up? People are like, that's crazy. I'm like, yeah, well, I can do that because I know I attract good people. You know what I mean? So I'm not out here putting out all this negative, crazy energy. So I'm not attracting people who are drawn to that. I'm attracting people who are open-minded and positive and have interesting things to say and share some of my beliefs and outlook and all that. So it's all good to me. And, and I hope that continues as high as I can get it to go,
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, when you had the meetups, like, what do you guys do? Just hang out, kick it, whatever?
Just normally go for dinner, just talk, just hang out.
That's pretty cool. That's awesome, dude.
That's whatever. Yeah, man.
Like, really intimately get to know your fans.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I mean, because I'm sure that you see yourself in them too, right?
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, I don't see myself above people. I mean, I'm just me. I mean, I don't think, okay, like I'm up here on this magical pedestal because more people might know who I am than know who the average person is. I don't get on any kind of high horse, and I don't want to ever do that. No matter how many people ever follow me or know me or like me or listen to me or whatever, I certainly, I don't hope. I know that I will always stay grounded because it's been such a long journey for me and it's been so gradual, and I've got that genuine gratitude and genuine respect for my audience. And I've also got really good people around me who I know would keep me grounded if I ever started acting like a prick,
That was close to a cuss word, by the way. That was close.
Nah. Yeah, that's about as edgy as I get. Yeah, but that's how it is.
Or who's the people that in your community that hold you accountable?
My family.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome that you're still tight with. Not that you're still not, you know what I mean? Like, as we get older, I think you're like 33 or something like that. We kind of tend to, in America anyway, we kind of leave the nest and we go out and pursue our dreams or careers or whatever we're doing at the moment. And family sometimes takes a back seat, and it's cool to listen to someone with so much influence and family be so deep rooted in their message.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I'm very blessed with my family. I've got wonderful siblings, wonderful parents, wonderful nieces and nephews, aunts and uncles. The family is very widespread. And then beyond that, I've got great friends. I've got a wonderful girlfriend. I surround myself with good people. I don't surround myself with people who are trying to pull me down or who don't have the best intentions for me or anything like that. I've always done a good job, even since I was young, of not falling into that trap of just, surrounding myself with negative people or anything like that. It's not something I've, as I get older, even, it's like something I've got even less time for. I'm like, look, online, offline, whatever, if someone's just trying to be purely negative and not bring anything positive to the table, then why would I waste my time spending it with that person? Like, It doesn't make sense.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, they just crush you, man. They just suck all that energy out of you. And most of the time it doesn't help. I mean, it's just like, you are the average, right? Like I say it all the time on the show, like, you are the average, and, you hang out with all, a bunch of negative naysayers, you're going to turn into the sixth, or, you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely, man. No, life is too short for that.
So going back to the earlier start of your career, after you left your job, like, was it hard for you to start your career as a rapper? Like, was that like you were already something that you were doing that kind of just took off?
I was already doing it. So by the time I left my job, I had already released 2 albums and 1 EP. So I had 3 releases out there already. I already had a small fan base. I'd already done a whole bunch of shows and performed in a bunch of different cities and stuff like that. So I had the confidence to transition over to just doing it full time without it being like, okay, I have no idea what I'm going to do, or no idea how to earn money, or no idea how to, that would have been too rash a decision. But yeah, I mean, I'd been doing music. I released my first album when I was still in university, and then I released my second one immediately after. And then I released my EP during the period when I was working full time. So Yeah, I already had a base level. I already had a sort of core fan base and people who I knew liked what I did. So it was more of a matter of like, okay, I need to. I mean, it's still the way I think now. It's like, I know what I do is good. I know I've got my message. I know what my message is. I know who I'm trying to reach. It's just a matter of trying to reach more of those people because I know they exist. I know I have millions of potential fans all over the world. Mm-hmm. It's a matter of discovery. It's like, I've got millions of potential fans in Japan. They just don't know who Zuby is yet. Right.
You're crushing it on Twitter though. So, I mean, you're definitely getting noticed over there. I mean, have you found that Twitter works better for you?
Yeah, it's my favorite platform by a mile.
Really?
Yeah, by a mile. It's not even close.
So what's the difference? I mean, like, what is the advantages that you see for Twitter as opposed to like Instagram?
Jeez, man, it's not even close. I don't even know how.
I'm taking notes, by the way. I'm sorry. Like, I'm like, I need to learn more about Twitter.
Because Twitter is the best actual social network. If you want to actually socially network with other human beings, Twitter hands down is better than the others. You can reach absolutely anybody and everybody. And also everybody and anybody can reach you. So the pro and the con are kind of the same thing. But in terms of actually being able to link with people and do business and form relationships and build a tribe and actually have conversations, if you're someone who actually wants to converse rather than just show off your pretty pictures, then it's not even close. I mean, Twitter's for people who like to read. Twitter's a word-based platform. I'm a rapper. I'm a speaker. I'm a podcaster. Like, I'm about the words. So yeah, I can put up pretty pictures, but if someone just goes on my Instagram, it's like you're not really getting all of Zuby there. You can see how handsome I am, and see some of the cool things that I'm up to, but you're not going to get any idea of how my mind works. Well, or a very light one, in the same way you can on Twitter. And just in terms of actually being able to reach people in real life, I mean, that's how I got on Joe Rogan. That was through Twitter. That's how I got on Ben Shapiro. That was through Twitter. I've just been contacted by Fox News Tucker Carlson. That's through Twitter. Like all of it is through Twitter. Like I could delete all the other ones, and like I'm like, please God, let me keep this one. And also you got the viral factor. I mean, you can't go viral on Instagram.
Yeah.
How do you? If I posted my deadlift post on Instagram, how would that go viral? You can't retweet it. You can't repost it. So you can go viral on Facebook. That would be kind of the second in terms of virality, but you can't go viral on the other platforms. Twitter, I can go viral every week on Twitter. I can just say one thing that resonates with people and boom, 10,000 retweets, like 2 million, 3 million people saw this post. And that happens all the time. I mean, my Twitter profile does 50 to 60 million impressions a month, which is insane. Like I'm not touching anything close to that on the other platforms. So yeah, I think people should use whatever works for them. If for some people, if Instagram is the best thing for you, if you're a photographer, if you're a model, if you're, it depends on what you do. If you're something that's more about, if you're somebody whose work is more about the imagery, then sure, Instagram may be the best platform for you. For some people, Pinterest may be the best platform. It really depends on where your audience is and the way that you communicate. With me, I communicate through words. So something that's word-based is always going to be what's best for me.
Yeah, it makes sense. That's total sense. Like I never even thought about that, right? Like a rapper, poet on Twitter. Yeah. Like that totally makes sense. And you're right. I'm definitely not a model, so I should probably get off Instagram and get back onto Twitter.
Yeah, be on all of them. But, you can prioritize the ones that get you the most bang for your buck.
Absolutely.
And also in terms of actually making money, like I make infinitely more money on Twitter than I do on the rest.
Yeah, I thought it was really cool how on Joe Rogan, like he freaking like pulled your podcast up and subscribed to it right away. That's nuts, dude. Like I was like, that's awesome.
Yeah. Shout out to Joe Rogan. He gave me a shout out, so shout out to Joe. I know he doesn't need it.
Absolutely, man. That dude's like my idol, man. He's awesome.
Yeah, he's a good dude. He's a good dude.
So when you posted that Twitter, like what was the next day like, or whatever? Like how long did it take to catch fire?
About 15 minutes. Yeah. About 15 minutes. The video had about 15,000 views after about 15 minutes. And then I think it hit 100K within 2 hours.
Did you plan that, or was it just like I'm deadlifting? Like,
Dude, I didn't plan the reaction. I mean, you can't. There's no way I could have foreseen. Okay, this is the tweet that's gonna get me onto Joe Rogan and get me onto all these shows and get me doing a media tour in the US, right? Like, there's no way that I could have predicted that, man.
No, but I mean, like, did you plan like, hey, I'm gonna go and create this tweet where I'm deadlifting, because you're jacked, dude. Like, so you definitely lift. Like, this could have been like a typical day at the gym for you, just going in there and racking some weight. Like, but then you're like,
it was that was just from one of my training sessions. That video was already online, but it didn't have the caption.
Recycling that content, man.
Well, I kept hearing all these stories, like I said in the tweet, I kept seeing all these stories of biological males competing against women and smashing them in all these various sports. So out of curiosity, I was like, I'm good at deadlifting. I wonder what the British women's deadlift record is in my weight class. And I saw that it was 215 kilos. And I was like, ooh, I can do 275. So I just pulled up a video of me doing 230, which was 15 kilos beyond the record. And I just tweeted it, just kind of matter of factly saying, yeah, I keep hearing about how biological men have no strength advantage over biological women in 2019. So watch me destroy the British women's deadlift record without trying. P.S. I identified as a woman, so don't be a bigot. And that's, anyone who follows me on Twitter should know that that's not particularly atypical of the kind of stuff I post occasionally. Like, sometimes I go deep, sometimes I go funny, like whatever. I just have fun with it. But that one just struck millions of nerves around the world and got retweeted into oblivion and ended up, the calls from the mainstream media started coming in the following day because the video had already cracked 500,000 views within a day. And I just started getting calls from the BBC and from Fox News and New York Times. I mean, it went bananas.
Who was the first to call?
I think the Sunday Times or BBC. Yeah.
And they just said, hey, we saw your tweet. It's controversial. Yeah. We want you.
Well, they just said, we'd like you to expand on it a little bit. Why did you do this? What was the point you were trying to make? And, we'd like to talk to you about it. But the thing is, it's not just the tweet, it's the 10 years of work that went in beforehand, because that got people's attention. But there's a lot of people who could, actually, there aren't a lot of people who could have made that tweet because most people can't lift that weight. But that could, there are people who go viral on Twitter all the time, sometimes more viral than that. But that's just the post that's going viral, and there's nothing particularly interesting about them beyond that. But people came to that, and then they were like, oh, okay, this is funny. Oh, this guy's a rapper. Oh, his music is dope. Oh, he's got a podcast, which is interesting. Oh, he's quite funny. He's interesting. Oh, he's got an interesting back. So that was kind of the thing that drew people in. But then a lot of people stayed because they liked what I had to say and what I was doing beyond that single tweet. So that's why, that tweet was way back in February now. So if it were just that tweet, then, it would have just kind of come and gone, and that would have been it. But it was like, no, like this is kind of a gateway into a much more interesting thing that's going on here. And I think, getting invited to do all these podcasts, Joe Rogan, Dave Rubin, Ben Shapiro, Glenn Beck, Candace Owens, like some of these massive media personalities, that came because they know I have something interesting to say. This interview we're doing now, I'm assuming you reached out to me not just because I did a deadlift tweet back in February, but because you thought, this guy's interesting. Like he's got a perspective. He's doing interesting stuff. And that's kind of how it's been. So it's weird that was the piece of content that sort of put me on the radar of so many people. But it came at a good time, and I'm very thankful that it did.
Yeah, no, I wanted you to come on because your story of, you're different. You're a rapper. You don't cuss. You are all about positivity. I think it's your new. Is it a new single or album, Perseverance?
Perseverance. Yeah, that came out earlier this year.
That's what I'm about, man. Like your message, your brand. Like your brand's legit. Like I love the Zuby logo. I love your shirts. I think everything about you, dude. Like you just have a great message. And
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
it matches and aligns with what I'm trying to create, right? Like I'm trying to create this art by audio, which is inspirational. Like I just, I'm not a rapper, but I'm passionate about firing people up and creating art in that form. Mm. And you are this brilliant poet. Like you put sentences together that I couldn't even think of, right? And your message is so powerful. And then like you have this brand that is like true and authentic, and you don't cuss, and you're all about positivity. And it's like, man, I can align with that. And then the tweet is just, it's something that it kind of makes me sad that we live in that world where people get so freaking crazy about something like that. You know what I mean? Like it's,
yeah, but you can get frustrated by it, or you can use it to your advantage, man.
Absolutely. And that's what you did. And, yeah. But like you said earlier, like the 10 years, it's one tweet, but you don't see the 10 years that came before that. And like my next question is like, do you believe that we're on this journey? Like everyone's on their own journey, and that if we keep working, we keep hustling, and we keep grinding out, like one day we'll reach that success, whatever it may be, or do you think that we're just kind of like wandering? You know what I mean? Like, do you think there's somebody that is guiding us along? Like, that the book, my favorite book is The Alchemist.
Okay. Yeah.
And I'm kind of going along with that. Like there is a higher being that if we follow our dreams, that they will help us make them come true.
Yeah. Well, I call that God.
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe in God. I always have. In fact, my name translates to God's decision. That's what my name means. So I've got a lot to live up to in this world.
Jeez, that is crazy, dude. I didn't know that.
No, there's no reason you necessarily would.
But I mean, like, all right, so yeah, you definitely believe in God. Yeah. You better after having that name. But like, I guess I would say like I'm so torn. So I've been reading a lot of spirituality books, and like sure. I'm Catholic, so it's like I'm becoming more spiritual rather than religious, and like I'm wandering through my life, and I'm kind of like finding my message, finding my voice, and it's like after reading The Alchemist 1,000 times, it's like that same message where you can either settle down and just live your life on cruise control, 40 hours a week, 9 to 5, or you can go out and go after your dream and go after what you want. And I think a lot of people are scared to do that because they're afraid they might not get it. And I guess the question would be like, do you think that God, I know there is free choice and free will, but do you think there's a little something extra that goes behind it?
Man, I don't know. But I mean, all I can do is live my life. How can I say? There are certain questions that exist in the world which, if we're going to be frank, nobody can answer. Right? Even the simple question: Does God exist? Is God real? What does the concept of God even mean? When someone says that word, do people even mean the same thing? What is the true religion? What's the there are all these sort of eternal existential questions that most adults seek answers to. But if all of us are being totally honest, we don't know. We don't know. No matter, you can't be. That's why it's called faith, because I can't. If someone's like, okay, what's your proof of God, right? I can't give you a mathematically rigorous proof of God existing, because I can explain my sort of logic behind it, and I can explain the reason for my faith and things like that, and I can give some anecdotes maybe about things I've seen in the world or things that happened in my life that make me sort of lean that way or anything like that. But ultimately, all we can do is live in the best way possible for ourselves as individuals, our families, our communities, the world in a greater place. And to me, a key part of that is really just maximizing your own potential beyond treating other people the way you wish to be treated, and being kind and being fair and treating people decently and trying to help other people where you can. A big part of my message is really about maximizing your own potential. That's all I'm trying to do in this world. It's to become the best version of Zuby, mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, relationships, network, everything that I can do. It's like, I'm still just scratching the surface of what I'm capable of. I've got hopefully another 50, 60, 70, who knows how long we're they say lots of people in our generation are going to live over 100 years now. So got plenty of time to kind of see what can be done there. So the idea of going on cruise control and just kind of riding out the next 70 years, I mean, no way. There's so much untapped potential there. And I mean, how great would the world be if everybody maximized, or at least tried to maximize, their own potential? Because we've all got different gifts, different personalities, different abilities and talents and things like that. And so many people just squander that. And it kind of makes me a little bit sad, because it's like, man, like you could be so much more than you already are. I can be so much more than I already am. Like I'm trying. I'm trying more than the average person, but I've still got other gears I can hit. I'm sure you've got other gears you can hit. Like every person it's like, man, like you can always do more. And even if it's not about doing more, it's also like, you can treat people that little bit better. You can go out of your way a little bit more to help people and all that. And when you kind of shift that's why I say, I'm all about the positivity and the inspiration, because it's like so many people just get caught up in negativity, their whole mind, their whole life, everything's just based around the negative, seeing the problem in every situation, seeing what's wrong with the country, what's wrong with people, what's wrong with them, what's wrong with their body, what's wrong, right? Rather than flipping that and saying, I'm grateful. I'm in the USA. I'm in the most prosperous country in the world at the most prosperous time in history in the world. Like you've hit the freaking jackpot. If you're born in America, you've hit the absolute jackpot. Yeah. And yet people would rather like whine and moan than just complain and say how terrible everything. And I'm just like, I can't be around people like that, man. Because it's like you've got no gratitude, you've got no perspective. And yeah, sure, things can be better. But it's like, well, if you want to make things better, why don't you start with yourself? Rather than running around screaming at everybody else and how terrible everything is, it's like, you know what? And actually, the system is pretty good. Like the system's better figured out than almost any other country in the world. So why don't you have some gratitude and some perspective and make the most of that? Because 98% of the world would trade positions with you in a heartbeat. And those people who are less fortunate in many ways are more positive than you are, despite the fact that their lives and their futures and their opportunities are far less prosperous and more bleak in some regards. And maybe this is where my perspective from having grown up in different places and traveled to 30-something different countries has really sort of helped shape my view, just to realize, like, just the scale of opportunity or lack of that does exist in various places, and just recognizing, like, man, I am so lucky. Like I cannot complain. Like when I catch myself complaining, I try to nip that in the bud pretty quickly, because it's like, man, I have very little in the grand scheme of things. Yeah, sometimes you have a bad day, sometimes you're in a bad mood, but I'm still happy when I'm not in a great mood, because it's like, man, like I'm still, like I'm not worried about where my next meal is coming from. Like I turn on the tap and like this magical clean water just flows out infinitely. do you know what I mean? Like I flick the light and I flick a switch and light comes on. It can be pitch black outside. Just flick a switch and light comes on. I'm here sitting in this room with, a nice bed, and the temperature is nice, and I'm having a conversation with somebody who's 1,000 miles away from me in real time, and we're going to share this with thousands of other people, and other people can. I'm like, dude, this is magic. Do you know what I mean? It's like this is magical. Like I think back to, imagine how your great grandfather lived. You know what I mean? It's just like, really, who listening to this thinks they have it worse than their grandfather, let alone their great grandfather? So people need to kind of recognize that, and it does really shift your mindset to just being like, okay, I'm gonna. Let me use this. Like let me make the most of this.
That's so powerful, dude. Like that's some great stuff in there. Great nuggets. I think you're absolutely right. I think we don't appreciate I know sometimes I get into it though, but it's like you get into that grind, you get in that, three kids, married with a wife, and you get into that daily grind of like it just happens. Like you go to work, you come home, and it's soccer, and then it's school, and then it's whatever else you got going on, and it's like you just fall into it. It's like a trap, right? And then it's
but those are blessings, man.
Oh, absolutely.
Like everything you just named there, it's like, man, that's a blessing. That's a blessing. That's a blessing. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. It's just your mindset, right? And you gotta have stuff that you do daily to relieve the stress and to really keep your mindset positive. Like, meditation for one. And I know everybody says it, but it's like there are different forms of it, right? There's different forms of meditation. There is running. I've been running my ass off lately, trying to work up to my goal next year, running a marathon. And it's
nice.
Yeah. And it like the feeling that I get running is like phenomenal. Like, I mean, it's just, I feel so much more positive. And it's, reading books, connecting with great people like you, and just really taking in the company and taking in your essence and just being here and being calm. Like I was listening to Aubrey Marcus the other day, and he who was he with? Humble the Poet. That was that episode, and they were talking about psychedelics, but that's not my thing. But they were talking about, Aubrey was saying how he meditated with a rose or something like that. It was kind of like woohoo, and he was on mushrooms or something, and then like the rose, it was like the last rose in his rose bush, and he went out and he clipped it and he brought it back in, he put it on the altar, and he started meditating. And the rose was like, how dare you? Like, how dare you clip me and not even smell me and not even like appreciate me? And it was like, kind of like, whoa, step back. It's like, it's kind of weird, but it's right. Like, how many relationships that I have that I don't appreciate, I don't smell, I don't take in their essence. And it's like, they are the last rose. They are the last version of that, right? Like I'm never going to have, I'm never going to have another, wife like I have now. I'm never going to have kids like I do now. And like, I need to take the time, whatever time I have with them, and be in that moment and breathe in them as a person and their traits. Like you right now, like, who knows if we ever get another opportunity. Hopefully we do get, to connect, but it's like, I'm taking in this moment right now just to connect with you and just hear you and just, be on the same wavelength.
Yeah, man. No, that's powerful, man. It takes intentionality to do that, because like you said, it's possible to just have periods where you're just caught in the cycle, and you're just kind of plugging away, and you're not really thinking about it, and you're not really appreciating it, and you're not thinking about why you're doing it. You're just kind of keeping the wheels turning. But then you can just have literally like a couple of minutes. Like I have times where I literally, normally to myself, not out loud, so I don't sound like a psycho, but I literally will just close my eyes and think of everything I'm grateful for, from my feet to my eyes, to my ears that allow me to do this, to my voice, to the fact I have two hands that I'm holding the microphone with, to the ceiling above me, like the walls surround, like everything. Because you're just like, man, you can't take any of this for granted, dude. Because everything I'm listing, there's people who don't have it. Mm-hmm. There's people who literally don't have it just by being able-bodied. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like you're fortunate. You're fortunate. Like some people don't even have legs, let alone legs that work. Right? Some people don't have arms. Some people are missing limbs. Some people are blind. Some people are deaf. Like I'm a musician. Like, gosh, man, what if I was deaf? Like that. Imagine not being able to hear anything. Like, and then you have people who are like that, and like they're still grateful because they're like, okay, maybe I'm deaf, but hey, my legs work. Hey, I've got hands. Hey, I've got a loving family. Hey, I've got good friends. And it's no matter someone's situation, you can always find things to complain about, always, but you can also find infinite things to be happy for and grateful about. And you can also think of like, okay, well, how could things be worse? It's like, oh, things could be worse in all sorts of ways. And that's why when disaster strikes, either at an individual level or when, you see bad stuff happening to people around the world, or you're watching the news or whatever, and you're just like, oh my gosh, man, things could be infinitely worse. Like you look at the stuff that people tend to complain about in the modern Western world, and then you just kind of whether someone turns on the TV or flicks through a newspaper, like you've got places where literal war zones, like you've got kids that are just by no fault of their own, just by dint of where they were born, and they're just living in they're just in the crossfire of some random stupid war that they don't even want to be in, and it's not safe, and they can't do this, and and it's just like, man, and even historically, I mean, even in the countries that we're both from, so even in the US, even in the UK, it's like, man, what if you were born in like the 1920s? And that was World War I, World War II. I mean, even the concept of a world war. I mean, World War II went on for what, like you just go back and you read this stuff and you're like, this is insane. Yeah. Like all this stuff I'm reading is absolutely bananas. Like how and why did this happen? It's just like millions and millions of people dying and suffering, and you're just like, ooh, okay, yeah, maybe someone said something mean on Twitter, but there's no somebody like kicking my door down.
Oh,
man, round me up and send me off to like a gulag or like a camper. It's just like,
it's crazy, man. Yeah, think about World War II. Like, I mean, you think about all that chaos. I mean,
gosh.
Man, like
it's nuts. It's absolutely nuts. I'm just like, man, I am very happy that I'm living in this time, not that time.
Absolutely. I mean, you look at Hong Kong right now, man. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. It's crazy. Like, we are so blessed, and sometimes I get down, sometimes I forget,
Sure.
But I think it's easy if you have things in place. Like, what is it? What besides like the showing appreciation and being grateful, like, is there something else that you do for a daily routine?
Honestly, no, not really. I mean, a lot of people ask me if I meditate. I don't meditate. I do try to read daily. I try to pray at least once a day. Sometimes I miss it, but I try to pray. If I try to do it either like first thing when I wake up or last thing before I go to bed, just to. And I guess for me, praying is a form of meditation as well, and it just helps me to take stock as well, take stock in inventory, think of the things I'm grateful for, think of the things that I need help with, and that questions I don't know the answer to, or things I'm feeling uncomfortable or worried about, just kind of opening up about that. And and then just, praying for certain things, like, okay, like I've got this thing coming up. Maybe, I don't know, I've got a gig coming up tomorrow. I've got a speech that I've got to do. I've got a podcast I've got to record, just praying that it goes well, and I find the right words, and I present myself well, and I don't say anything too stupid. You know what I mean? But then,
I definitely know what you mean.
Yeah. And, acknowledging where I've messed up too. Like, man, I did, or I said that thing that I kind of wish I didn't say or do, and I'm sorry for that. Just all that, just kind of taking stock. And then, of course, I've got my, I've been in the States now for the past 6 weeks, so my gym schedule has gotten really, really out of whack with all the different cities I've been going to and visiting and stuff. But normally I've, of course, got my training as well, which helps to just keep me sane and happy and grounded.
Oh, absolutely, man. I think the gym is definitely a great place to center yourself and build that positivity. I mean, even if you do little stuff, right? Like just some movement is always going to boost your momentum.
Yeah, man. Well, we're supposed to move, man. We're not meant to be as static as most people are these days.
Absolutely.
The way we live these days is very artificial in a lot of ways, and it's comfortable. It leads to abundance and stuff like that. But we're living in times where a lot of the dangers are actually based on abundance and comfort rather than true lack. If you think of a lot of the issues, I mean, just the simple idea that obesity is a bigger problem than hunger, right? I mean, that's kind of crazy when you think about it.
It's sugar, man. Sugar's killing us, dude.
Yeah, but I mean, when else in history was that the case?
I know, right?
Like, oh crap, people are eating too much.
Too much. It's so crazy, man. Like, how do you? All right, so you eat McDonald's sandwich or whatever fish sandwich here, it tastes like fish. You go to UK, it tastes like, something else. You know what I mean? It's just the food that, we're poisoning ourselves with this manufactured crap, like this processed food. Like, I mean, it's all to save $1, right? Like, I mean, it's nuts, man. It's crazy to me. Like, it's more expensive to eat healthy than it is to eat like crap.
Yeah, it is. It is. The thing is, we kind of live in times where because almost everything's based on ease, comfort, and convenience. And to sort of prosper and be healthy, both mentally and physically, it's almost like you have to kind of create your own, you have to kind of intentionally opt for the harder option. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No.
So, I mean, around the world, and again, going back in history, like physical labor was mandatory, right? Like work was just physical. Like you just had to walk around a lot. You had to lift stuff. You had to climb and cut and hunt and do all of these activities. Whereas it's like, okay, like we're so comfortable now that you kind of need to go and artificially stimulate yourself. You need to go and run on a treadmill. Go and lift some. Right? It's like you're literally sort of artificially replicating the stuff that you kind of your body's sort of meant to naturally be doing. Like you're not meant to be sitting for 20 hours a day. Like that's not. Isn't
that crazy? Like the gamers that we have now that just game all the time, and jobs where we sit at our desks for 8+ hours. I mean, sitting is the new smoking.
Yeah, it's a gift and a curse. Like I said, it's comfort, it's abundance, it's nice. You don't have that stress, but there are dangers that come with that too, and and that includes things like anxiety. That includes things like depression for people who are prone to that. Lots of that stuff is tied to lifestyle and diet and exercise or lack of. And it's, and then on top of that, you add the fact that, what you were talking about society being a little more fragmented, with people being away from their families and away from their communities and not living in nature. I mean, something like 70%, I might be making that number up. I think I read that 70% of the world's population lives in cities. And again, I believe that's probably relatively new, like you go out into nature, whether it's the seaside or the beach or mountains or a forest or woods or whatever, or the desert. And you can kind of get this feeling that that's almost where you're supposed to be. You know what I mean? It's like your body sort of, I don't know the science behind it, but your body almost kind of like just releases certain endorphins or something that lets you know, oh, actually, like this is more natural. This is kind of where you're supposed to be, not necessarily in some crazy noisy city, just sitting in traffic. And so, yeah, you don't, I'm not saying you have to go and move to a shack in the woods living by the lake or something. I wouldn't want to do that. But it's important to have that balance of, yeah, cool, you can have the modern day creature comforts and you don't need to be living out in a tent or something, but you also don't want to get so comfortable and so lazy and so sedentary that you just, you let your body and your mind just start to decay from lack of activity.
Yeah, we are addicted to the noise, right? Like if we go out into the country, it's like I travel probably, maybe, I don't know, not as much as I should, but I go back home. I'm in Baltimore now, and I'm probably 2 hours away from my hometown, and it's very rural and it's country, and I go there and like seriously, it is so quiet. Like the quiet it's eerie. It's crazy. It's like, sometimes it's kind of, it's a little overwhelming, the quiet, right? And I think that scares us, and we can't handle it because now we're left alone with us, right? If we don't have a cell phone, we're left alone with us, and now it's the thoughts, right? And dealing with what's inside of us, and we don't want to do that, so we stay in motion, we stay busy, we want that city, so that way we can just go, right?
Yeah, and people are over addicted to stimulation. I mean, that includes myself. I mean, it shouldn't be hard for me to sit for 5 minutes with no stimulation, but I can do it. I'm better at it than most people are. but I'll naturally start feeling the pang of like, oh, I should reach for my phone, or I should pull up a YouTube video, or I should pull up Twitter, or do something. And it's like, man, like, no, you should. It's almost like people are afraid of boredom.
Oh my God, I was just thinking that. Yeah.
It's like actually, you should probably be able to like experience short-term boredom and just kind of sit and just chill.
Yeah, because some crazy stuff happens then, right? Like you start thinking about other things. I mean, you might have a great idea about a song or music or something, right? And instead of just scrolling through the drudgery of social media,
and it never ends. That's the thing. It's infinite. All of these infinite. You can whatever platform you're talking, whether it's YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, infinite. Like you can just scroll and scroll and scroll, like just keep refreshing.
Yes.
And there's new stuff, and it never ever ever stops. And again, you just have to you really have to kind of police yourself. We're in this brave new world. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, the original iPhone only came out 12 years ago, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that nuts?
It is nuts.
Think smartphones and social media and the way we have them are pretty much about 10, 11 years old. But
that's what scares me.
Yeah, but it's totally ubiquitous. I mean, it was like man, in terms of world-changing inventions and behavior-changing inventions, that's like an atomic bomb, man.
Yeah. Well, just think about what's coming up in the next 12 years. Right?
Yeah, I know. I think about it a lot, bro. I think about it a lot, and it excites me, but freaks me out.
Yeah. I mean, because like Elon Musk is getting like all crazy about he just freaks me out with some of the stuff he says about Google and what they're trying to do over there, and virtual reality and AI, and it's just like, man, I don't even want to know. Don't even tell me. Like, I just want to stay over here in my little my little world with my kids and watch Disney Junior and stuff like that. I don't even want to think about what's going to happen, dude. But yeah, dude, Zuby, how can people connect with you? Like, how can they find out about your next show, where you're going to be at? Where can they get your songs?
Sure. So my website is zubymusic.com, and you can find me on all social media. Definitely follow me on Twitter, and I'm also on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. All of them at Zuby Music, Zuby Music. My latest album, Perseverance, is available now on iTunes, Spotify, and all of the other digital platforms. And my podcast, Real Talk with Zuby, is also available on all the above. It's also on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, CastBox, wherever you listen to your podcasts.
I'm not too proud to say that I've already subscribed.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you very much.
So, Zuby, when it's all said and done with, man, like, what do you want your legacy to be?
I want to have a positive impact on millions of people all over the world. When I die, I want millions of people to feel sad because I had some kind of positive influence on them in some way, shape, or form through my words and my actions. I want that to be my legacy.
It's powerful, brother. Well, I want to say thank you so much for taking the time to come on the show. I love your message. I love what you're doing. Your music is powerful. Keep it up, man.
I will, man. Thank you so much.
I want to say thank you to Zuby for coming on the show and taking the time to spread your love, to spread your message, because I know you're a busy guy and you got so much going on, but to take the time to come on and just talk and hang out, it really means a lot. And to you, the listener, I want to say thank you for doing the same. Thank you for downloading this episode. Thank you for taking the time to listen to our conversation. It means a lot to me. And please leave a rating and a review. It helps me scale. And if you want to follow me on social media, you can do that on Instagram at TDowns80, on Twitter at DownsTrey, and follow me on Facebook at Trey Downs. If you want to learn more about the show, you can do that by going to yoursuperiorself.com and checking me out over there. If you want to get on the email list, you can do that as well and have every episode sent directly to your inbox. This has been exciting. This has been one of my favorite conversations, one of my favorite episodes. So thank you guys so much for hanging out, and I will talk to you later.